We'll call to order the executive board meeting, our monthly by Zoom executive board call for April 11th, 2023. We'll start with, we'll do the roll call first. So Randy Bauer is present and Kevin does, you don't think Kevin is yet. Kevin Pryor is not present at present, but we may get him at some point soon. Chuck Unruh,
Present.
Fun Fong,
Here.
Mike Hoffpower,
Here.
David Hayter,
Here.
David Day,
Here.
John Fernandez,
Here.
Carol Meyer.
Here.
So we have a quorum. Are there any new conflicts of interest that should be disclosed? Hearing none, we will move to then the adoption of the March 2023 minutes, which are in the packet. I went through them and didn't see anything. Did anybody have any comments on the minutes? Would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 8-7-0. Financial report. Vice President of Finance, Chuck Unruh, would you care to provide us with a report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The financial report is good. We are we are continue to see very, very good membership numbers. A lot of strength in our core business. There's going through, we put out the financial statements, and obviously going through, you can see that our net assets are increasing steady as she goes. Going to the expense side, expenses are under control. Our IT is reasonable, and Carol's been working on that. It's not blossoming as of yesteryear. So I'm very, very pleased with the financials. It's steady growth. And once we see a pivot by the Fed, we'll be adding over 200,000 a year just in cash dividends without any loss in value. Right now, we face some headwinds in our investments from unrealized losses. You've heard of them in the banks, and the banks are suffering now because of the unrealized bond losses. So we have a few of those as a balanced portfolio. Currently, half of our portfolio is in cash deposits in ladders that are yielding well over 4%. That is a pretty, I think, a really good risk profile to put money with various banks for the insurance purposes and risk-free get over 4%. So our income is doing well. We'll keep up with the cost averaging program so that when interest rates finally stabilize, we'll have investments that yield over 8 or 9%, and we'll have those for the future. So this is very good for US Chess. Why? We have the flexibility. We had the cash just at the right moments in the markets. So bottom line, we have a surplus. We're ahead of budget. We're coming toward year end. I don't see anything that's going to throw us off track to have a solid year. At this point, more detail in the operations, I'd call on Carol to comment. Financial part of the operations.
I think the only thing I would comment on, Chuck, is your noting about the increase in net assets. And right now we're in the middle of our scholastic season, so both memberships driving that number up, as well as tournament registrations. As the full bill hasn't come due yet from the high school, we'll have a better sense of where we land at the end of April. So Everything is really good. Things are strong, but right now, the timing of when the expense side hits against the revenue there's a delay, and so don't be lulled into a false sense of how great things are.
Is
Yeah.
there a reason to believe that we lost money at the high school?
I
Oh, I
don't,
guess because we had to get that other hotel and everything.
so the cost for the hotel plus the transportation, I think came in around $15,000, give or take. And I know that the person who does our meeting planning actually was giving us some consideration. I think they were throwing in $2,500 to offset our transportation costs. And Boyd has yet to meet with the hotel to do their post-meeting postmortem. And so we're expecting some additional consideration from the hotel. But to
Carol?
answer your question, Mike, I don't know, but I don't think we will have lost money on it.
Carol, I agree. I believe that we will have a positive year. I don't know if it'll be a blowout year. We have some weaknesses. I think not as many donations as normal. It's just, if we hit on all cylinders, it would be very interesting. And maybe we'll do that next year.
Right. We also have the benefit, as we've discussed in some prior months, of having received some employee retention credits under some of the COVID relief acts, and
Mhm.
that was about $250,000. So that's gone right to our bottom line as
Right.
well. So it's not all outstanding operational performance. I wish I could say it was all that, but it certainly goes to the bottom line having that kind of credit come to us.
Well, just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
membership number is pretty amazing. So I'm curious. I know some of that could be the way we recognize membership throughout the year, but we're getting to the end of the fiscal year, so that should start not being as big of a deal, right?
So
Yeah.
we've actually been tracking for the last 3 or 4 years the cash we receive for membership, not what's recognized, just straight on cash. And we've already surpassed where we were last year at the end of the fiscal year this year by, I think, $100,000. So I'm guessing we're going to finish 300 plus above, just on membership sales alone, above where we were last year, maybe a little bit higher. And we're holding steady on the magazine subscriptions that members opt in for. And so if you were to do a comparison for when we before we split the magazine from the premium membership, that whole dichotomy, we would be ahead of where we would have been at our highest year in terms of membership revenue. So it's been very strong.
There were a couple things that jumped out at me. One is just adult membership. I mean, that number, when you look at almost $1 million compared to a budget of 640,000, is pretty impressive. And we've certainly been talking about how that category has been doing pretty well.
And Randy, that is on the financials, that number is skewed by the deferred revenue having all been recognized.
Yeah, although okay, some of that it'll all kind of wash out at the end. The other one that I was curious about is just the vouchers, because they're 204,000 versus an estimate of like 84,000 is pretty significant difference from what we were expecting.
Yeah, and so we budgeted on a historic number. The voucher program has just exploded this year as programs rebuild. That is a very low cost entry point for our youngest players to come into the organization. So at some point we probably need to look at cannibalization, but my personal view is it's a very great way to bring people in and a lot of times they just convert to a regular membership after the first year.
I mean, my view on it is, yeah, there's some cannibalization. All I want to do is not cannibalize it anymore. So discussions about an even lower cost, voucher, I'm really not seeing the need for that. And I may be in the minority, but that's kind of my perspective on it. At some point in time, we still do have to service those members and have the infrastructure in place to service them as well. So
We could view that as an outreach to the schools, the voucher program. It's a loss leader in the cannibalization, but
okay,
might be just outreach.
you can't do it for zero. I mean, we're getting down anyway. This is just a discussion we probably don't need to have here, but that was the other thing that when I looked at, I was kind of wondering about was on the last page in the coaches honorarium for FIDE events is like 149,000 and we had 45,000. What's the story there? I don't understand what that's
On
about.
FIDE,
Which
Yeah.
page are you looking at, Randy?
9304 coaches honorarium FIDE events.
Which statement, the statement of activities?
I'm sorry. I'm the P&L.
oh, you're at the detail.
So, yeah, we had 2 Olympiad teams. We had international youth
Okay, but-
events.
Why did we not? Is it just we forgot that we were going to have the 2 events, or
So you're looking at the total number. That's the year to date.
well, okay.
We're 10 months into the fiscal year.
Well, this is-
I will go back and ask Deborah to give me the detail on that, because that number does look maybe a little high. But when you consider that we have 4 or 5 coaches stateside for the World Youth and, a larger number for the cadet, and then for the Pan Am Youth, the number of people serving that function goes up.
I mean, it just struck me as it's a 332% of budget for the
Oh,
expenditure.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll double check that something else isn't hitting that line item that shouldn't be in there. That's one of the things we've been cleaning up some things as I've been budgeting, finding things that need to be reclassed. So this may be one of those.
Okay. I mean,
Well-
overall, it looks really solid. There, as Chuck said, there's some headwinds, but particularly, obviously, membership is doing well. As Chess Life noted in the last issue in February, I think 19th or 20th, 21st, something like that, we went over 1 million, and it was a nice story about the little girl who was the millionth member, or 100,000, excuse me. And at the end of March, we're at 104,645. So it's not as if we crossed the Rubicon and then slid back either. And certainly the Scholastics help with that, but it's pretty a strong performance so far this year.
As we go forward, Randy, I would warn that we are marked to market, and as we start active programs, it'll show a loss on the bottom line. But really, those were endowments, and all we're doing is drawing from the endowments that are static.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or questions?
I'm
Seeing
saving
that,
all of mine for this weekend.
I'm sorry.
I'm saving
yeah,
all of
thank you,
mine for
Thursday.
this weekend.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's the end of our open session business. We're going to go into closed session. Carol, they're going to reconvene from open session. Closed session, we had a variety of useful topics of discussion, including the fact that our next meeting of the executive board in-person meeting is at our headquarters in St. Louis this weekend. And we talked about that, as well as started some of the discussions around the annual meeting, the delegates meeting, workshops, etc. We had one motion, and by the way, Kevin Pryor joined us right as we were going into closed session. So we had all 8 members of the executive board present for those discussions. I believe there was one motion coming out of closed session.
Yes, Mr. President. The executive board approves that the U.S. Chess Professional Players Health and Benefits Claim Committee's recommendation to extend the PPHB grant by $5,000 to IMJ Bonin.
We've heard the motion. Is there, and it came out of executive board, so there's no need for a second. Is there discussion?
I would just say, Randy, that the previously it was approved for $10,000, so this is a $5,000 increase.
Yes, thank you. That's correct. And that there was an ADM that was passed last year that provided that to go above the $10,000 maximum, which had been the prior limit, and this was a recommendation as funds set up committee. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 8-0-0. I believe that disposes of motions. And as I said, we will be meeting again in person in St. Louis over the weekend. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion here. And all those in favor of adjourning say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Great.
Thank you all.